All right. Welcome back to the second episode of All Things Ali, which is my preliminary name right now for this podcast. Today we have Mana Aziz Sultani on the podcast.
What's up, guys? Yeah.
Awesome. Big nose over here. Known him for a long time. He's getting his PhD at UNLV. I'll let him kind of introduce himself a little bit more, and then we'll get right into it.
Yeah, PhD, stands for permanent head damage. So you have to be at least a little bit crazy to do a PhD. So they say. So I'm here from, fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, for better or for worse. Probably for worse, let's be honest.
A little bit. Knowing how you turned out.
Yeah, it was okay. When I was, I don't know, where should I start? If you're a Persian kid, you're also a Persian kid.
Yeah, you have three options. It's either lawyer, doctor, engineer, but the question mark one is anything in STEM. And
right,
so
right.
You chose question mark.
Yeah. M stands for mathematics, so we're all good.
Yeah, right.
And then I did my master's online over COVID in 1 year at North Carolina State in statistics. Statistique, as my dad says.
Statistics.
And then I took a gap year, traveled the world a little bit. I was couch surfing in Hawaii, Utah,
California,
Reno, California. I was living in Spain for 3 months, in Barcelona, and then 2 more months in Madrid.
Barcelona.
Yeah, exactly. And then was in Morocco for a little while. But yeah,
We'll get into all of that.
I've kind of done it all.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to be
You're
able
done.
to say that.
You got to the end of life.
Right.
So the game of life.
Now I'm doing my PhD because it's like the next step.
Right.
So
you got to one step at a time, 1 foot forward, right? But cool. All right. So thanks for the introduction. I want to kind of start out with what is your PhD? What's it like to get a PhD first? And then we can kind of go into some other things because I know you have some opinions about it.
Yes, I have some opinions about a PhD. So I'm going to start with this. People have a conception that a PhD makes you really smart. To get one means you have to be really intelligent.
Oh, and mention how old you are.
Oh, yeah, I'm 23, so I've done everything pretty quickly.
Yeah.
For the record. Not that it really matters, but...
You are on the record. We have proper mics now.
Yeah, exactly. So I really think that a PhD is mostly about your ability to get through all the busy work. Because the truth is, it's a lot of busy work, at least in the social sciences. I do a lot of reading, do a lot of writing, I go to my classes, and I don't know, I just learn how to produce scientific research, sort of.
Okay. Cool. And what does that look like day to day? Are you reading a lot of publications by, other people at other universities and then kind of crafting up an idea of what you want to research and then applying that, or how is the process?
Geez, dude, it's tough. My days are so different every day. I'm involved in a lot of things on campus. I have my own podcast.
Yes,
I
sir.
go to all my classes.
Thank you for giving us a studio to record in today.
That's on me, guys. I got you. You should do a little sound clap in the back or something.
Yeah. Hey, Luis, why don't you put that in there? Are you our new engineer?
Yeah. But no, my day to day, I get to school about 9 o'clock. I usually work on homework for a couple hours. Have a meeting with whoever, do whatever. I talk to whoever I run into, and then go to class, come back, go to attend an event. That's it.
Cool events.
Yeah, I get to go to cool events. I do. I go to a lot of networking events through the hospitality college, the business college. I have a soccer club that I run on campus. We have like 100 kids show up sometimes. It's nuts, actually.
Nice.
So yeah, there's a lot of things
a hustler. He's always been one.
I don't know, dude. I'm trying to not hustle these days, so trying to take a little bit of a
ease through it. As
yeah,
they
exactly.
Say.
It's funny. I always tell everybody ease through it, but I never take my own advice. So yeah,
that's true. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good insight. A lot of people our age don't know what an actual PhD looks like on the day to day, so it's good to kind of get that experience and share that. I wanted to mention, so people who have a PhD, what do they do after? What do you see people doing after?
Oh, they all go in academia usually. They usually do research or teaching. So the PhD is a terminal degree, right, to become a professor, right, or a docent. Right. And so you move into either research or teaching, right? And so, or both. And so a lot of times either you'll go into the teaching route, you'll become a teaching professor, or you'll become a researcher. And so that's kind of where that goes.
Cool. So a lot of people like who want to go into the workforce, you would probably advise maybe just get a master's.
Just get a master's, do the
Okay.
MBA route, and don't even bother.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
The PhD is like it's like too much work to like if you're just gonna go to the workforce. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Okay. Interesting. And so I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. So we have a lot of history, done a lot of dumb things. But one thing that we share is kind of like our financial mindset in a way.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? So this is a financial YouTube channel podcast.
Right.
So I kind of want to touch on, where did you build these values, learn them, learn about money? We both grew up pretty frugal. Like, I know we love to get a good deal.
Frugal, bro? Dude, frugal's not even the right word, bro. I'm straight up cheap. You guys you don't have to sugarcoat it at all, dude. Like, I take pride in it, actually.
We're going to get In-N-Out after because it's the cheapest thing to get around
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Dude, make America In-N-Out again, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I just like,
Go and
In-N-Out's
get
like the
out.
greatest thing in the whole world, man.
It's so good. You get like all the food for like $7. It's awesome. But anyway, yeah, please.
So, I'm really lucky in the fact that I have parents that have they don't only value financial literacy, they've also taught me at a young age. So, whereas some people might sit at the dinner table and talk about, I don't even know what goes on at dinner table conversations with their kids. I don't know, like, how was your school day, this and that. My parents talking to me about
Football, something.
right. They're talking about stocks. My dad complained about the stock market, or my dad told me about companies that maybe I should invest in, or he would ask me all the time, if you could invest in a company right now, what would it be? Because I would wake up in the morning and watch the stock market with him. He would get excited about it. He'd get me excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents also are a little bit into real estate, and so we always talk about the properties. We talk about the taxes.
What does your mom do now?
Don't even get me started. Yeah, so my mom was a education major back in college, and she substitute taught at my high school or not just my high school, my elementary school, all my schooling, all the way up. But once I graduated, she decided that she wanted to give up the noble cause of teaching kids to go back to school and study accounting so she can count people's money.
And so now she's a CPA.
So now she's a CPA, yeah.
So that helps too with the financial knowledge.
Yeah.
In
So
the family.
kind of going back to that, financial knowledge in the family. Whereas other kids might have gotten a different sort of, maybe their parents might have stimulated their interest in sports or in arts or in something like that. I had my parents stimulate my interest in finance.
And so, obviously you went to school, you got a math degree and then stats and now a PhD at the hospitality school, right? So what made you choose those and not go into finance, since you did have all of that like financial stimulation at home?
Okay.
I've never asked you that.
So
actually,
I'm gonna joke around about it, but I'm not really joking first,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll tell you the real reason. So first off, the reason why I didn't want to become a finance major is because the finance college is in the business school,
Mm-hmm.
and I never want to be a business major because I think when I was starting out college, I thought business majors were idiots. So
well, I will say it's definitely not as hard as other majors.
That might have been, and now 5-6 years later, I completely disagree with how I used to think. I now firmly believe that it doesn't matter what major you are. It doesn't matter even how intelligent you are. What matters is what you make of your education.
Yeah, that's so
you
true.
You can be I don't know what's a major people like people dump on.
Probably like all the arts.
Right. Let's say you're an art major.
The
right?
common joke is you'll go work at Starbucks.
Here's a perfect example, right? So there's this girl that I know that was a photography major, right? People used to no, actually she wasn't. I take it back. She was a creative writing major, and everyone used to. Can I swear on this? No, huh?
I haven't decided that yet.
People used to crap on her all the time, okay? And she ended up taking her major that she was super passionate about because she always wanted to tell stories. She turned it into a photography business where she's extremely successful now, where she does a certain sort of photography that tells a story. So she managed to find a way to make her passion to a reality, and she's extremely smart, extremely driven, extremely talented, And so anyway, back to that whole thing with the major elitism or whatever. I don't believe in it anymore. But I never went into finance because I tried it. I didn't like it.
Yeah. No, that's fine. And to be fair, like, you don't have to major in something that you're you're interested on the side.
Oh, I didn't. No, I didn't. I did math. I did math because it was hard. I didn't do it because I couldn't care less about an integral. I mean, really. But I think for me, at least, I did internships, right? So I did internships in finance, in like, I guess, personal. What is that when they're basically salesmen. They were trying to sell like the annuities and stuff.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it's
that really turned me off because obviously it wasn't like your
traditional
investment banking and whatever. And so that was like my feet diving into finance. And so I was like, yeah, I'm done. But then I did the actuarial route, which is also kind of finance, but it's in the insurance industry. And I hated that too. I didn't want to be stuck in a room clicking on Excel. And
that's what I do.
Yeah. Well,
currently.
Yeah. No offense, but I didn't want that.
I get it.
And so I guess I thought of, one day I want to have a family. I really value family, and one day I hope to have my own, and I want to be able to spend time with my kids, take them to school, raise them myself. And one of the things that the finance industry doesn't let you have is a nice work-life balance a lot of times.
This is true. And it is a misconception that, like, like, as you work, it's less hours. I look around, and like I mentioned, like, I work at a bank, and I see people who've been working there for 20 years, and they're still doing long hours, 11, 12 hours a day.
That's nuts. How do they even sustain that? Seriously.
I really don't know. And then they, they have their kids at home and everything. So it's tough. If you value that you have to consider that long term.
Yeah. And so what I've opted for is now teaching, right? I want to become a professor. I went through like this crazy existential crisis when I did my gap year, and I realized that what I want to do is help the people that are lost, like me, become unlost, basically.
Yeah.
And one of the ways to do that is become a professor, because you can help students at that critical age. It's like 18, 19, 20.
Yeah.
Find out, where they're going to go, and also maybe instill some values into them.
Everyone always remembers that, like, one teacher, professor that really left an impression on them.
Call me the catcher in the rye or something. But so one of the things that I'm going to be doing pretty soon is teaching a class. Next semester, I'll be teaching my first class in person.
Ustad Mana.
That's
that means
right.
Professor in Farsi.
And it's going to be an intro to business class. And so
no way.
One of the things that I want to incorporate into it is a little bit of financial literacy.
Yeah, that's great.
It's hard
something we lack in this country.
Yeah, no, it's an epidemic for sure. What is it, like, how many percentage of Americans don't have even $1,000 in their bank account? It's nuts. Like 20, 30, something.
More than
like
half
that.
of Americans live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And actually, a large percentage of people making even over $100,000 live paycheck to paycheck.
Oh, I can believe.
Which is kind of ridiculous, to think about. Everyone has their reasons, but for such a high percentage of people, it obviously shows a lack of education in this space, which is something I hope that I can provide value to this channel and future conversations with people. Teach.
One of the things that I learned in my time abroad, or kind of just bouncing around, is that it's really not that hard. It doesn't cost that much to live a basic life, like
a fulfilling life with like people you care about.
Scratch fulfilling.
Yeah.
But I mean, just like have a roof over your head that's decent, live in a decent neighborhood, and eat decent food, like not eat junk all the time. And I think that we forget that a lot of times. We all, we get caught up in like, inflation, everything costs so much, or every time there's a new expense, get a new car, a new house, whatever. And I think that it's not really that hard to make it if you just like live frugally. And if you live frugally, you don't have to skimp on the things that make you happy or the things that, make you healthy.
Yeah.
So I really think that if everybody had a little bit of financial education at like age, 18, even 17, like maybe they're senior high school.
Maybe in high school. I mean, I know we have like some like basic like
I'll give you an
financial
example.
literacy classes, but it's not.
In my high school class, they have a
Mhm.
personal finance class that you take as a senior.
Mhm.
I didn't take it because it just wasn't really in the scope
We
of
should
what I
make it
was learning.
required.
Yeah, we should make it a requirement. But they taught you how to, like, write checks or something like that. I don't know.
Not useful things in today's day and age.
Right. So I think it would be nice to have a class that all high schoolers had to take that were like, oh, we should talk about a Roth IRA. Maybe we should.
How to do your taxes.
How to do your
At a basic
taxes.
level, at least,
Yeah, or I don't know, just like what are some stable assets? Maybe how to get access to the stock market, or how to
How to manage your budget.
how to budget. Yeah.
Yeah. Or how to budget at all. Yeah. Have a budget.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it should be something that's more, I guess,
More
omnipresent
prevalent,
in people's
yeah.
lives.
Well,
But-
something I want to add to that is that, like, you hear a lot online about, like, don't buy that cup of coffee, or, like, don't get extra meat when you go to Chipotle, because that's cutting into your retirement. If you add that money to a stock account, and then you put in the S&P, 10 years from now, you'll be like a millionaire. No, I mean, like, sure, maybe, like, if you spend $100 less on coffees over the course of a whole year, you could put that into the market. But
I think you have to pick and choose, right? I don't
Yeah,
cut you off, but this is something that we were talking about the other day. And you don't have, like I was saying, you don't have to skimp on the things that make you happy, right? Like, for
exactly,
example,
like, do those small things.
I love coffee. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't skimp on coffee necessarily because I bought a nice espresso machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
I buy really fancy beans
Mm-hmm.
and I make it myself at home.
Beans.
And I always make sure I have half and half because I like coffee breve. And, maybe I could buy K-cups for 20 cents a pop and I'd be saving tons of money. But I buy fancy coffee and I buy a fancy espresso machine, and that's what I won't
Yeah,
give that up.
like live your life. And the whole point of me saying that was, don't focus so much on these, like, little things that you're not going to save yourself. Like, you're not going to save enough money to become a billionaire.
No
The
way.
way you make your life different, the way you aren't like 80-90% of people in the country, is by making strides in the things that actually increase your income by a lot, right? It's like, if you make $50,000 for 30 years, that's very different from increasing your income every year by maybe $5,000.
Well, not only
And-
that, but you can only play defense so much. Like, your defense
Yeah.
will only help you so much, right?
You'll be 0-0 at the end of the game.
Right. But if you have a really good offense, you can score up to 20 goals, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the way I see it is, like,
Just be messy in everything you do.
right, the marginal growth is bigger on offense than it is defense. And by defense, I mean, like, being frugal with your money, right?
Exactly.
So you might only save, let's say you cut out all the stuff in your budget and you save $10,000 in a year.
Yeah.
Well, you could make $100,000 in a year, 10 times
Yeah.
that.
And to be frank, making $100,000 a year in today's day and age is actually not that hard. There are so many jobs that you can get that will pay $100,000.
I know that, but it's a buyer's market now for jobs anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's tough to say with layoffs, but it is also in different. Like, you hear about layoffs and everything, but that's at certain companies in certain industries. That's not across the board. Some companies are counter-cyclical, so they hire in recessions, right? So look for those in times like this.
Yeah, or like, for example, the example that I always get is insurance, right? Like, insurance, in the next 10 years, I think 50% of the workforce is going to retire. So
That's a
if you're
huge
sharp,
opportunity.
if you're sharp and you want work-life balance and you want a good salary and you want growth in your company or in your career, if you're sharp, get in now. They'll suck you to the top in 2 years. I have a friend that she came onto my podcast a few weeks ago, and she, 1 year out of college, she's 2 years out of college now. She got a job starting at $80,000 out of college. She works from home, and she doesn't even work a full work day for 5 days out of the week.
Wow.
In 2 years, she got a promotion. Now she got 2 promotions in 2 years, makes $130,000, has a team under her. I mean,
Wow.
it's nuts. There's a vacuum that took you right to the top.
No, like I said, like those opportunities are there, but yeah, increasing your income is more valuable than just saving away. Right?
Yeah.
but we are pretty good at
What
trying
about,
to
what
save
about
away.
the Acorns app though? That's kind of cool, huh?
Yeah, I mean, Acorns, what they'll do is like you'll connect your banking information, credit card information, and every time that you make a purchase, let's say it's $1.50, it'll round up, put 50 cents into a brokerage account. I think that's a great concept. It's a good way to guarantee that you're putting some money in the market and saving. But again, it really it comes down to making those more strategic moves. I think it's good to have Acorns. Do it, use it.
No, I don't even have it.
But like another part of that is the law of compounding, right? So you would have like some money in the Acorns brokerage account, and then you'd have some money in in another brokerage account. Let's say that you opened up to buy your S&P 500 stock, and then maybe you have some in your Roth IRA, and then you have some in your 401k. So like all your money's kind of like spread out, and it's not all compounding together. So you do want to be cognizant of that. You want to reduce the amount of accounts you have and increase the amount of money in a fewer amount of accounts, if that makes sense, right? Because over the long term, you're compounding more money on top of each other, on top of it itself. So,
Yeah,
but
true.
yeah, I mean, going back,
There's
using
always tons of
these
ways.
finance apps is a great starting point, because you want to figure out, okay, like where am I now?
Like I think of myself at 16, I would love to have something like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
Because,
for sure.
I mean, now
For
it
sure.
doesn't matter because I know enough that I can play offense. You know?
Yeah.
But at 16, like, you know,
No, for
it would
sure.
have been nice to have like those pennies or whatever they are. You know, building up. And plus, like, what do they say? Back to the law of compounding. If you put in, what is it? If you max out your IRA for like the first 10 years,
You'll be a millionaire by the time you want to retire.
right? So there's also value in starting early.
Yeah. I think there's different ways of thinking about it, because you can invest in the market or you can invest in yourself. And it's tough to say because it really depends on the kind of person you are. And you have to be really real with yourself. This is like, you really have to take some time to reflect.
Right? You can't
on
just
this.
like invest in yourself and then piss away the money.
Yeah, like you have to be the person that, if you choose the invest in myself route, you need to be that person that will execute, take the lessons, really digest them, and make your life like incredible. Like if there's so many free resources out there and paid ones. If you do that, you spend time and you apply those, you'll be making a ton of money. But some of those things, like investing in yourself, it's investing time and investing money in some cases, like going to events or doing coaching or paying for courses.
Dude, for me, I learned so much from books.
And books.
Dude,
oh my gosh, books are such a good investment. Like you learn so much from the past.
People sleep on like, I mean, actually, nobody sleeps on them. Let's be honest. It's like Rich Dad Poor Dad, like all those books.
Yeah. Atomic Habits.
Nobody really sleeps on those books. But like those books, my mom. You know what? I'm lucky. Again, I'm gonna go back to my mom. My mom forced me to read these books when I was a kid. Dude, I remember. What book was it that she made me read? Oh, when I was a teenager, she made me read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, and then when I graduated high school, she made me read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And then later she made me read Atomic Habits. And later she made me read.
You gave
all
me a
these
copy
books.
of that. I remember.
did. Yeah. So
I love that.
there are so many, like, that's something that I will give to my kids is like, there's just so many resources out there that you don't have to go take a class on finance. You don't have to go pay $1,000 for some guy's course.
No, you don't.
Know?
Like
you can just go to the library and read the book.
Yeah.
And you'll learn so much.
There's really like no excuse. You know, everyone can go get a library card.
All it is time.
Or free PDFs. But like really, you if you don't have money to go buy the lessons, pretty much, you probably have time. And so with your time, you go learn the lesson the hard way, which is reading. But also, you hear these names of these books all the time on everybody's podcast. Everyone talks about these.
Just read them.
Just read them. Just read them. And the reason people keep talking about them is because they're good and they work.
Yeah.
So there's a lesson. Like the book could be 20 years old. You'll still learn a lesson from it. You read How
to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes, that's a great one. Or read Power. Or read oh gosh, what's the gosh, it's an older book. It's like
Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich. That's the one. That's a really old book, but the lessons in there are still applicable today, and they will always be applicable, right? So just build a library. Build a library. You always see like in YouTube videos or in movies, like the person with the mansion always has a library and it's packed with books. It's because they work.
I will send Ollie a link to my Goodreads shelf of books.
Oh yes.
And he can like link it somewhere.
I'll link in the description.
I'll put a bunch of books in there that I think that at least help me. I mean, like, I'm by no means a finance expert. I'm not even close to Ali. I'm just lucky that
Nah, you're a smart guy. You know what you're talking about.
I'm just lucky that I was put into a good position, maybe, or a good situation where I was able to learn.
we had good families that like understood the value of money. That's so important.
And also like
long term value of money.
So I have a funny story actually.
Please do.
So when I was about 18, my dad wanted me to learn the value of money or get life experience. And my dad is like this big scary Iranian guy, and
he does push-ups every morning.
Mana, you never had to work in your life. You're a very lucky kid. When I was your age, I was working 10 jobs and 10 feet of snow and
I walked up the mountain both ways.
Yeah, my dad is typical. He goes, when I was your age, I walked 10 miles to school in 10 feet of snow, uphill both ways.
20 miles back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, anyway, a lot of times us kids, we're coddled. I mean, what's that book, The Coddling of the American Mind?
Yeah.
It talks about how our generation we're entitled, we never had to work, blah, 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 we don't get it. And so I really, really think that a lot of kids nowadays, like especially in the middle class, upper middle class, you don't have to work. You don't understand the value of money. You're sheltered from it, because your parents do all the work for you and they give you the money and you spend it. Yeah. So you don't get it. I understood because...
But this is also an attribute of like different family dynamics too.
Of course. No, yeah. I'm not trying to say anything about... I'm not trying to implicate any kind of socioeconomic or political anything. I'm just trying to say
I'm just saying like some parents just don't.
No, yeah, of course.
Some parents are really good at teaching those lessons younger and some don't. And it doesn't... they could be equally successful.
Totally.
And it's just different. There's doctors who are strapped for cash because they make a lot, but they don't know how to manage that money. So.
No, totally.
But going back to your point.
18, my dad sent me to Hawaii to work with my uncle in Maui. And of course, like you're probably thinking like, oh wow, this kid is going to sit here and complain about having to go to Maui and work. But I was working at 18.
You were working hard,
I was working between 70 and 80-hour weeks. Probably 6 days a week. And I was like literally knee deep in like fish crap. Like, yeah. Shoveling it from the bottom of the hotels in like
those koi fish, man.
The summer sun of Maui. Yeah, it was either the hot sun or I was getting eaten by mosquitoes. So
ooh. Not fun.
It wasn't exactly Maui wowie like people might think. I'm not talking about the marijuana, but the thing is, I came out of that summer and I learned the value of $1. I knew exactly what $1 costed, or $1 cost, whatever. And there's certain experiences in life that I think every kid needs to have. And I think one of those is like just putting your head down and working hard and understanding what it is to work and make money, I think is very important.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. Like I had a similar experience, I guess.
You didn't even work until you never worked until you went to got your job, did you?
No, I did.
Put you on the spot.
I did work. I was gonna say when I was a teenager, I was a janitor, and that was my first job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was because I wanted to buy my own things. I was always into like tech, so I wanted to get a smartphone, and so that's how I got a smartphone. Was I worked as a janitor. Yeah. So we all learned these lessons.
Yeah. My dad's story was that he worked 3 months at a movie theater cleaning the gum off the bottom of the seats. And then when the 3 months were over, the guy never paid him because he was on a student visa, so he couldn't actually legally work.
Oh, my gosh.
So isn't that nuts?
That's tough. I know my dad has some similar stories. But, yeah, I think a big motivating factor for at least me is, like, I see how hard my parents worked to get where they are now and to provide the life that we fortunately have now. And I'm just
that's
like,
so noble of you.
I do not want to squander that. I really don't.
So noble of you.
I want to get back to them one day, but
I don't have that. I don't feel that. I mean, like, yeah, I'm grateful, of course. Like, I'm always grateful. I've been saying this whole podcast, for everything my mom and my parents have taught me. But, I think that as a parent, all you want is for your kids to do well.
Oh yeah, of course.
So I really just I
hope so.
Do well, just to do well, and I know they'll make them proud. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, no, that I agree. And you know what? We're in a good place now. We're in a good place.
Yeah, my dad always tells me, he's like, because I had a really rough time with my PhD at the beginning because I wasn't really sure that I wanted to do it, and I was thinking about switching over, and I just didn't really know. My dad was like, Mana, like, what are you doing? You're in such a good spot. Like, what? Just, don't screw it up. That's basically what he told me. So,
don't be a screw up?
Yeah, don't be a screw up. Yeah. Big screw up.
Big screw up.
But
that's us. That's pretty much us. You can call this podcast just Big Screw Up.
Big screw ups coming up.
Big screw ups coming up.
That's right.
Yeah, we have another project coming up. So
yeah, hopefully we'll get something fun together and we'll be able to, be less serious.
Yeah, this is more the finance stuff, but no, I think what are some takeaways that you could give someone? We'll definitely have more conversations in the future.
Yeah.
But for someone who's trying to get their financial life together or learning about personal finance in the beginning, someone who just turned 18 or building their credit and stuff, what can you teach them or lessons you can impart?
All right, 18-year-old Mana, what would I tell him?
Mm-hmm.
I would tell him first, open a credit card account on your 18th birthday.
Yes.
Charge one thing every month to your credit card. I charge Spotify to my credit card every month. Even if you don't use it, or you could say what you do and use it as a debit card, just use it, pay it off, kind of thing.
Yeah.
For me, it was different because I just didn't want to deal with it. Now, looking back, I probably would have done that.
Mm-hmm. Just because points and stuff.
Right, points and stuff.
But again, treat it like a debit card. You don't. Yeah.
Second, read. I mean, I don't know any 18-year-old kid that likes to read. I didn't like to read at 18, but yeah, I didn't even read in my teenage years. But I didn't even start reading until last year.
We got into those Kindles. And then
Ollie got me a Kindle, and that's all of a sudden sparked up my love for reading.
We downloaded a bunch of books, and we're like, okay, let's go at it. We had our little book club.
Yeah, we had a little book club.
We got to get back on that.
Although I will say, I read all 3 books, and I didn't even read one.
Yeah, I'm a slow reader.
Just gonna put it out there, bro. This guy.
You know what? We'll start it up again.
He was gonna say, bro, I'm busy, bro. I'm just kidding, dude. I'm just giving you crap. I'm just giving you crap because I'm on your podcast and I can,
Yeah, you're the only person that can do that.
Okay, all right. I won't get slapped. Good. Maybe I'll get slapped after. Actually, I'll probably get a noogie later.
You got such a flappable face.
Always gonna wake me up later. No. It's a hittable body. We established that last night in my soccer game. But back to the advice. Okay, we'll get back on track.
Right.
So yeah, credit card, reading. I would also say opening your Roth IRA. If you're working, max it out. If not, then contribute what you can. I would also say, talk to your parents. Ask them about their finances because you can learn from them. I mean, they have to pay taxes. They probably have a car payment. They probably have a house payment.
How did they do that? How does it work?
Right. You could.
What is the process of applying for a loan when that time comes? You don't want to go into it blind.
Yeah, right. And even if let's say you ask them at 18, you're not going to remember in 10 years when you have to go do it yourself. I mean, but at least you get an idea. You start thinking of ideas. I call it thinkering. I thinker a lot. It's like tinkering with your thoughts.
Yeah.
And then I would also say, if you can get involved in some way with your parents' finances or with, for example, at UNLV, we have a Rebel Venture Fund. You can get involved in the venture fund.
Yeah, same at University of Utah, the Student Investment Fund.
I would also, getting involved is a really big thing, and it's what taught me probably the most. This summer, my parents, up and went to Europe, and they left the family business kind of in my hands. So I had to build a house, buy a house, and sell a house in the span of 2 months.
Yeah.
And they were just good luck. And so
that is a good way to learn.
I mean, it wasn't that detached, but I was kind of dropped off in the deep end, and I had to figure it out. And nothing teaches you more than having to do it yourself. So if you're if you want to learn and you have initiative, and you're able to get involved in some way, tell your parents hey, when you're doing your taxes, can I just look over your shoulder? Or hey, do we have rental property? Oh, can I go and
See how it works.
Right. Can I, if there's some guy going for maintenance, can I go check that out?
I remember going to our duplex and like fixing stuff up, it doesn't matter the time.
I mean, same thing with me. Like I mean, obviously maybe I didn't want the responsibility, but looking back, I would have been an idiot to let that opportunity go to learn as much as I did.
We're fortunate when we did go, to learn those experiences, for sure.
And also, I think I'm going to throw this out there, whether or not it's really a finance issue recommendation, I think you should spend time living abroad, not just traveling, living, like understanding what the culture
travel is
is,
very different from living.
What the economy's like, what the culture's like, what it's like, what the lifestyle is like, and I think that really opened my eyes to a lot of actually
how fortunate we are here. That's one thing.
You're right. It makes you grateful, and also, it made me more financially aware. Yes. Actually, because I lived in Europe where they have a different economy than we do. They see things differently, and so it actually opened my eyes and made me want to do more research on certain topics, just because, I just saw the difference and I wanted to learn more.
Yeah, and another thing is like just seeing how people live. Like people live with less, like, and they're happy.
Right.
But that doesn't have to be your goal. But I'm just saying, like,
right.
You can spend less and be happy while you combine that with also like trying to grow and develop yourself and develop your wealth too. So like,
well, like Ollie was on my podcast.
Mix.
Ollie was on my podcast. I don't know when this is going to come out. I don't know when my podcast is going to come out, but we recorded his episode before this episode, right? So Ollie mentioned that, and this is something that I will probably take, personally, that you should always, everyone has something to offer, right? Whether it's a mistake or something to learn from, right? So whether it's their mistake you learn from, whether it's their advice you learn from, always keep your ears perked, always listen, and always sort of, be critically think about it, right? Like, don't just like let it come in one ear.
What I said was like reflect about it, but
reflect,
like critically think about it is good too.
Another thing you could do that would help you with that or your finances too is like have a journal.
Have a journal.
For example, I have a journal where I write. I have a diary. I have a journal that I write, not just finance stuff. I just try to reflect on lessons that I learn, things people tell me, what I do in a day. And I also have parts in there where I reflect on maybe business ideas. I'll write down a business idea and elaborate on it a little bit.
I think everyone should have that kind of notebook. I have that notebook too, where you just like write something down real quick.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
And I tried, and actually, it's funny you say that. You could do that way, but when I try to do it, I try to make time and sit down and actually like turn my system 2 on. So I can
please go into that, because you were telling me about system 1 and system 2.
So I can deeply critically think about the things that I'm writing down. Like I don't just want to write down something so I memorize it later, or write down something. I really want to reflect and like really kind of, what's the word?
Work out the intricacies of it and the different paths that you can take.
Right. I want to like use it as like something to turn my brain on, something to.
It's kind of like one of those, like, you draw a circle and then you make a web of everything, all the ideas that come from it.
Right, exactly. That's exactly. Ollie's saying that because that's how I take notes.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, like, it could be cool to, like, let's say. What's
up, Luis?
Someone told. What up, Luis? Someone told you something about a credit card, right?
Yeah.
Because that was your last podcast episode.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say someone told you that if you, I don't know, APR and you put down this much, you get this many points, and you have this much APR. Maybe you could do an exercise where you say, let's say I didn't pay my credit card off this month. What's the APR it's going to, I mean, but like, what will the consequences be, and, whatever.
Always pay the minimum payment at least, just to like keep your credit current. But anyway, go ahead.
But no, that's my point, is like, let's say, or Ollie tells me, for example, this is what I'm going to write down in my journal tonight, actually. I'll even expose myself. I'm going to write down, everyone has a lesson that they can teach you. And I'll sit there and I'll say, what are some lessons that I've learned?
Good and bad.
Good and bad. What are some mistakes that I've made? What are some mistakes that I've seen others make that I don't want to make?
Yeah. That often is like more powerful, I feel like, the mistakes that people, like things you don't want to copy from other people.
Well, I'm a big screw up, I've been.
Yeah, just huge screw up.
Just big screw up. And so I've made some pretty big mistakes in my life, and looking back, there's some things that I would definitely do differently. Even though, like, I've gone pretty far for, where I am, how long I've lived,
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that my dad has really instilled in me since I was a kid is that it's okay to fail, and I was that kid that was terrified to tell her dad, like, look, Baba, like, I screwed up,
Yeah.
And I was terrified of him. I would be scared that he's going to, like,
I think that's something that
just murder me, dude. Like, I was
we
just so
share in our
terrified.
culture.
Yeah. But, like, every time I tell him, like, I screw up, even if it was a big screw up, like, really bad, he would say, like, you screwed up. It's okay. Like, just learn from it and don't do it again. Just grow. Keep growing. And so I think that's the best advice anyone could ever give you.
That's so true. So true. Like a lot of people will make a mistake and then not do anything about it. Like, you'd be surprised. If you make a mistake, write down the mistake. Write down what you did to fix it. I hope you fixed it.
Well, here's
or
the
like
thing.
like write down what you learned from it.
Yeah.
Because you really need to reflect on it to learn the lesson.
Exactly.
You don't just learn the lesson by making the mistake, because people will make the mistake and keep making the mistake.
Right. Like, you're
Right?
like I think of it like this happens to me. Like, I make a mistake and I'm ashamed that I made the mistake. Right. So I don't want to, like, confront the mistake that I made.
Exactly.
It happens to the best of us. I mean, I'm sure it happens all the time in personal life, even professional life.
Yeah.
But it's like that whole thing where the puppy learns when it takes a piss in the house and you put its nose in the piss. It learns not to piss in the house.
It learns.
Right?
It learns,
so
I guess.
when you make a mistake, confront the mistake, and
Yeah.
then learn from it.
Yeah. You yeah, especially like your own mistakes.
And you know what? I'm going to tie us back to finance actually right now.
Yeah.
And maybe we can end it on that note or something. But here in America, we're very lucky that, we have a culture where it's okay to fail, especially in entrepreneurship, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can make a company at 20 something and maybe it'll fail and you'll be fine,
Yeah.
because
People will not think less of you. For
right.
that.
In fact, people will respect you because you were able to
Take that risk.
take the risk and work towards your passion, your risk, whatever.
Do something different.
But that's not the case everywhere,
Yeah.
And I think
that's
that,
true.
like, for example, when I was in Spain, the culture is not like that. A lot of times when you start a startup and you fail, you crash and burn,
That's rough.
They've gotten a lot better about it in the last years, but, I was in the community there and they were telling me about how back in the day, like, that was the culture and it was really hard they didn't have a culture around startups and they didn't have a culture around just, like, having ideas and pursuing them.
Yeah.
And so I think that,
And that that hampers the economy in the end, right? It just hurts you guys.
And so basically the moral of the story is take risks, don't be afraid to fail, and if you do fail, like, just learn from it and try again.
Yeah. And like, learn from the lessons in your failure. Like, okay, maybe we had issues with profitability. Like, how do you fix that in the next business, right? Like,
Totally.
and it could be totally different businesses, but, like, those lessons, those core, like, take the core reason, the core issue, the core lesson, and carry that forward, and make sure it's broad enough that you can apply it to different situations.
Totally. So, in summary. So, 1, learn from your parents.
Yeah.
2,
Good and bad.
get involved. 3, learn from your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And what else did we talk about? Everything under the sun.
Literally everything. But there's still so much to talk about, I feel like.
Oh yeah, we could
It feels like
elaborate on any
everything,
of the
but we
different
could go
things.
hours.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I think those are some great lessons. I think there's a lot of value in this, in listening to this today, from 2 big screw ups.
A couple of big screw ups. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely have you back on. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching if you're on YouTube. And we'll catch you in the next one. If you have any suggestions of things that you want to hear on the podcast, we talk at length about, please put them in the comments.
Yeah.
I know I don't have too many followers right now, but hey, I'll that
Fake
just
it till you
makes
make it.
yeah. I mean, hey, that means your question will get answered.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
All right. Bye, guys.
Adios.